Welcome everybody to this episode of the Growing AU Show, and dare I say emergency session at that. We got some bad news today for all you guys. Everyone out there that loves Amazon, that's invested in Amazon stock, that likes Jeff Bezos, I got some bad news for you. We're going to be talking about the implications of the newest possible perjury claim against Amazon and Jeff Bezos, why Congress is threatening to subpoena Jeff Bezos, and what it could possibly mean for everyone who is invested in Amazon, for everyone who's selling on Amazon, for everyone that uses Amazon on a daily basis. We're going to be talking about all of that today and really trying to get to the bottom of this political business nightmare. So first thing we got to do here is just take a look at some of the facts. This is what's going on, okay? Jeff Bezos is in trouble, and it could mean some seriously bad news for Amazon stock. This is all coming from an article reported on by CNBC that was also kind of talking about a Wall Street Journal article that was talking about a letter, that was talking about reports. This goes way deep, right? So we're going to be looking at an article from CNBC. That'll be linked down below for your viewing pleasure. On Friday, May 1st, Jeff Bezos receives a letter from the House Judiciary Committee that demanded that Jeff Bezos come and testify before Congress because Democratic leaders expected misguidance and even lying. So what brought on this letter to come out of nowhere? And we're actually going to be looking at the letter a little bit today as well. So this was brought on after a report by the Wall Street Journal accused Amazon of using information from third-party sellers, specifically private label sellers, using their information to help find the best profitable products for Amazon to produce. What you need to know there, what that means is a large portion of Amazon sellers that are third-party sellers, right? So all the products you see on Amazon, some of them are actually created by Amazon, sold by Amazon, but most of them are going through something that is called Amazon FBA, which is essentially, in very short terms, is you have a company, you have a product, you ship it to Amazon's warehouses, and Amazon takes care of distributing that product to the rest of the country or the world once it's purchased. And that comes at the payment of a fee from the seller. So what's happening here is that Amazon is being accused of stealing information from those sellers to find the best products for them to produce. So like, for example, there's like a line of products called Amazon Basics. Amazon creates these. So what they're being accused of is that, okay, they see that independent sellers X, Y, and Z on their platform are selling very profitable products. Amazon will then go and create those own profitable products under their own label and sell them for a profit. The problem with that, as the Wall Street Journal goes on to explain, is it could make Amazon guilty of misleading and possibly even criminally false perjury. This is all stemming from a hearing where Nate Sutton, Amazon's general counsel, went on and claimed that Amazon does not use third-party data to decide their own business tactics, as that would be unfair, and that Amazon had no intention and was not performing or doing those actions whatsoever. This report, though, from the Wall Street Journal is claiming the exact opposite, that they are doing exactly what Nate Sutton claimed that they had no business and no intention doing. Senators like Elizabeth Warren are actually up in arms on the issue, as they claim that companies should not be able to own and compete within the same market spaces, as it leads to unfair conditions. So this letter was sent out to Jeff Bezos, and on the day it was sent, Friday, May 1st, Amazon stock fell 7.6%.
Whoa! What is happening? Oh, hey, I didn't know you guys were here. This is weird. I'm future John. I'm John from the future. I normally get called in when John didn't explain something to you very well and that he should have. So what were you guys just talking about? What needs explained? Okay, you don't want to talk right now. That's totally fine. I totally get it. You're probably a little confused about what's going on. Let's see here. What were you guys were talking about? You guys were talking about Amazon. Okay. And he was talking... After the letter was released, Amazon stock fell by 7.6%. That's about where you were? Oh, well, you know what he didn't tell you about is that Amazon, this whole idea that's happening to Amazon right now is an example of idiosyncratic risk. And you need to know what idiosyncratic risk is. Basically, when it comes to a risk of an asset and the risk of an investment, there's two types of risk that you need to be aware of that can affect that asset. There's market risk and there's idiosyncratic risk. Market risk, sometimes also called syncratic risk, but we're just going to call it market risk for our conversation. So, market risk is anything that's going to affect the stock market as a whole. The coronavirus is a really good example of market risk. It affected the entire market. It wasn't just limited to an individual asset. Idiosyncratic risk, on the other hand, is a risk that is only affecting one asset, right? So, easy example of idiosyncratic risk is like if a CEO of a company were to pass away or get sick and they had a poor year because of it, that's an example of idiosyncratic risk. It was something that only affected and that was analogous to that individual asset.
In this case, however, this whole thing that's going on with Amazon right now, this whole subpoena perjury issue that I keep hearing everything about, that is an example of idiosyncratic risk because it's only affecting Jeff Bezos and Amazon. Now, if Amazon stock were to fall, it could be covariant with another stock in the market, causing that stock to rise. But that requires us to calculate the covariance between Amazon stock and other stocks. That's not what we're talking about. We're just saying that this specific risk to Amazon stock is something called idiosyncratic because it's not directly affecting the rest of the market. The more you know. I'm going to be going back to the next video because we're talking about the stock market crash of 2020. Stay tuned for that one. See ya. Now, compulsory action was threatened to Bezos, meaning essentially that if Bezos didn't comply and come and testify in front of Congress, that they could subpoena him and force him to do it anyway. If Amazon wasn't already being accused of misleading and perjury, now they're also under investigation by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. They have an investigation going on there, and that was reported on an article from Bloomberg. What's interesting is that as of right now, Jeff Bezos is the only of the big tech CEOs to not have testified in front of Congress at this point, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. Amazon is being accused of suspected perjury because they are stealing and taking information from third-party sellers and using it to compete against those same third-party sellers by producing the similar product. Amazon's Nate Sutton again claimed that they were not doing that, they had no intention of doing that, and the Wall Street Journal report claims that they are. That's the intrinsic bottom line problem of this issue, is that Amazon is essentially creating an unfair market space because they own the market, right? But then they're going to compete in that same market by using their own sellers' data. They're saying that is completely unfair. The issue, though, here, this goes a little bit even deeper than that, is because it's now becoming quite a bipartisan issue, as there's certain Republicans on the committee that are unwilling to hear and really cooperate with this investigation. The main reason being is one of the main signers of the letter, Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler, was actually recorded saying that he wants to redistribute power and start breaking up all of the large companies. This was recorded him saying that. And now, even though Gerald Nadler was not directly referring to big tech companies in that statement, a lot of Republicans are worried that this is just the first pull on the thread to really start to break apart all of the large companies. And this is just an excuse to go after Amazon, which would then set a precedent of being able to go after and break apart large companies. And certain Republicans are just not willing to stand by that. But it doesn't just fall directly on party lines, because as you can see here, there's a number of Republicans that did sign the letter that went to Bezos and claim that this needs to be looked into. So it's not a completely split party issue, but there is starting to be a political debate on whether or not this is right and whether or not this should be happening. What are my personal thoughts on the issue? Well, here's what I'm personally thinking. Number one, I have a bit of experience in the Amazon FBA market. I've looked into it. I've looked into their Kindle markets. And what we have to understand is that Amazon provides an incredible service, not just for its customers who are purchasing products, but Amazon has single-handedly made it possible for hundreds of thousands of independent businesses to actually sell a product. All right, it's very hard for a company to get into a big box store like Walmart or Target or anything like that. But selling on Amazon is something that virtually anybody can do who has a product. It's really allowed for the creation and sustaining of new businesses unlike anything we've ever seen before. And that needs to be to Amazon's credit. Is that something they've allowed to do? So here's kind of the weird part about this issue. What Amazon is being accused of doing is something that almost every other seller in the market does on a regular basis. One of the ways that someone knows whether or not a private label industry is profitable on Amazon is by doing what is essentially really advanced keyword research. To put that in layman's terms and keep it very simply, there are programs on the internet that allow you to go out, look at Amazon's listing. So for example, let's say we want to sell coolers, okay? We can go on Amazon and we can type in coolers, run the program. It's just Google Chrome extensions that will tell us how profitable that product market is. It'll tell us the sales, it'll tell us the monthly revenues from each different product, it'll tell us the amount of reviews, it'll tell us everything we need to know about whether or not that is a profitable market. That is how private label businessing on Amazon is done. Research is done on the existing market, and then that is what allows the independent businesses and sellers to decide whether or not it's a profitable place for them to enter. The same thing is done on the Kindle marketing side, which again, that's allowed thousands and hundreds of thousands of independent authors to start self-publishing and getting their ideas out there to the world. And that is one of the greatest things that I think Amazon has done, is allowed for people to get their ideas out to the world on a very approachable and easy to use basis. That is, again, the Kindle publishing platform. On the independent level, everything that Amazon's being accused of is happening. Now, I don't have a statistic for it, but I'm willing to admit that probably 85%, if not more, of successful private label sellers are using the keyword research method. It's really the only way to know whether or not a market is profitable on Amazon. what Amazon is being accused of, the reason it's a problem for Amazon is, from what I understand, and the way that I think it's kind of what Elizabeth Warren is trying to say here, is that we understand that you have to research your product markets. We understand that all this is happening. The issue we have, though, is that Amazon's kind of, baking the cake and eating it too. They're double dipping, right? Because they're creating the platform to everyone sell the products. They're creating the platform for all of this information to become available. But then they're taking that information and then using it against the sellers that have already went to use their platform. And they don't think that's fair. They don't think it's fair for Amazon to simply say, okay, yeah, let's give you this platform. Let's give you all of this way to reach customers. And now let's take that information and find a way to directly compete against you on our own platform. And another reason that wouldn't really be fair is because of the amount of advertising that private label companies have to do to even be seen on Amazon. Amazon has millions and millions and millions of listings. It's not enough just to find a profitable product market and start selling. You have to do a lot of advertising directly through Amazon, paid Amazon ads, things of that nature. But obviously an Amazon company wouldn't necessarily have to do ads in quite the same way that a private label individual would have to do. So again, that would create another area of unfairness, is that, all right, we started to sell profitably, but now you can come in and sell profitably, and honestly, you have the capability of listing your product higher because it's your platform. So it really does, what they're saying, it provides for some really, really unfair market conditions. And I have to admit, I think there's two sides of the coin. We have to look at the fact that Amazon has done a lot for small businesses, and they've done a lot for independent writers and thinkers and things of that nature. They've made it so that anybody can sell a product, that anybody can start making money online. That is what they've done. So that is to Amazon's credit. But at the same time, if now they're going to go and compete against the same people they've helped, it doesn't provide a fair market space. It simply doesn't, because they've created the market space and now they're going to go and compete within their own market space on their own platform. It's a conflict of interest, is I think the best way to put it. And I do think that it does provide an area where regulation is needed. That being said, what I worry about for Amazon is, could this be the beginning of the pulling the thread, as I like to call it? You ever get like a pull in like your shorts or your shirt, and you just pull the thread and all of a sudden it just keeps coming, and next thing you know, your shirt's ruined or your pants are ruined? I'm kind of worried that the same thing's going to happen here. That this is the first place that everyone's going to start pulling at the thread politically to start bringing down the Amazon business power that it is, right? They're going to start pulling at that thread and things are going to start coming out and coming apart. My worry about that is that could set a precedent for a number of the big businesses and industries across the United States. And there's gonna be a lot of people out there that are saying that's a good thing. We need to redistribute that. The thing that we have to think about, though, as I said, is that Amazon and other big businesses, Apple, Microsoft, they've all provided ways for these small independent sellers and small independent businesses to really get started. They've provided platforms and services that weren't before being provided. So what I worry about is, this is the first step in the process of bringing down some of these large companies and redistributing the power. What I worry about there is, very simply, does this lead to an area where, are we taking apart the companies with the thought of the little man in mind, with the thought of the independent seller, with the thought of the entrepreneur, with the thought of the startup writer, the startup company? Are we taking apart these companies with that thought in mind? Or are we taking apart the companies for the sheer political fact of not wanting to have these large business powers operating in the United States? We have to determine what side of the coin the problem is actually being addressed on. I truly believe that if politicians and the government want to go after big business and they want to redistribute the power, to use their words, it has to be with the independent entrepreneur at the forefront. Because these are the people that are going to be hurt the most. You can pull apart Amazon, but not only do you pull apart Amazon, you pull apart the platform that allows hundreds of thousands of businesses to actually remain open. You pull apart the platform that allows millions of individuals to sustain a livelihood, if that all falls apart. Because if you redistribute it and you kind of format it, there's no saying that that's necessarily still going to be provided, if not kept in mind from the start. I believe that the best thing for them to do is keep it in mind from the start, to keep in mind that there's a lot of people who individually make their living on Amazon, and that's done a lot of good for people. So what we have to do is now regulate to make sure that Amazon obviously doesn't do things unfairly, doesn't create unfair market conditions, doesn't do anything illegal, but also keeping the small entrepreneur, the small business, the independent authors all in mind, because there's a lot of people who make a living and support families on these platforms, and because of big companies that have made it possible. And that part can't be forgotten. So if you're going to pull it apart, if this is kind of the start to a very long process, I think the process needs to be done for the right reasons. And that right reason is, again, supporting small business and supporting more businesses, not just for the sake of bringing down the big one. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I know that got a little bit more political than normal, but I mean, let's be honest, sometimes politics and business do immediately intertwine. I think that's very clear in this issue with Jeff Bezos and Amazon. As far as what I think is going to happen, I definitely believe that Jeff Bezos is just going to openly and willingly go testify in front of Congress. I highly doubt he's going to have to get subpoenaed. I'd be very surprised. As far as, will Amazon be charged? Well, I was reading a little bit that it's kind of hard to charge with perjury sometimes. It's not always as simple as it may seem. And the next thing we have to talk about here is what would that mean for Amazon? Amazon is a corporation, so whether or not Jeff Bezos can be independently charged is probably not. He is protected by the guise of that corporation, but could it pierce Amazon's corporate veil? A lot of interesting things here coming with Amazon. Again, they've already dropped 7% on Friday. Going to be very interested to see where they open up tomorrow on Monday. And we're going to keep you up to date on this issue as things continue to progress. It's definitely not the end of it. And this could be the beginning of a, quite a large cycle when it comes to big business in the United States. I'm very interested to see what happens. Definitely do your research, stay up to date on this, and I'll be doing everything I can to keep you up to date on this channel. Speaking of staying up to date, you can always go ahead and join our email list, which is linked down below on our website at growingau.com. The email list is going to give you, three things. First of all, staying up to date on all of our information. We're going to send all of it to you. Second of all, it's going to allow you to get our free stock investing ebook, a little 8-page ebook to get started in the stock market. And finally, a free share through our link at Robinhood that allows you to get a free stock in the stock market. All you have to do is open up an account and you are set and ready to start trading. Again, always seek professional financial advice before making any financial decisions. As we always say here, Amazon, Jeff Bezos are on a rough boat right now. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with them, and we will keep you up to date on this issue. Let me know what you think down below. What do you think is going to happen with Amazon? What do you think is going to happen with Jeff Bezos? What do you think it would mean if all of a sudden Amazon started to get split apart? What do you think it would mean for small business? What do you think it would mean for the country? What do you think it would mean for the economy? Let me know down below. Let me know if you're invested in Amazon and what you think of this information. And with all of that, we will catch you next time.